All right, everybody, thanks for coming today to the Little Fish webinar. My name is Jeff Gibby. I'm going to be kicking this off as always. Welcome to the class today. We have a very special guest. Let's go ahead and read through. I know you guys are always excited about the legal disclaimer. Let's go ahead and get that underway. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. Let's go ahead and get to the next slide. All right, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I know we advertise this to the Little Fish list as well. Welcome. If you haven't heard of MetaStock, it's one of my favorite software products in existence, and we won't talk a lot about it, but it's been rated #1 21 years in a row. Some of the best data that's available. If you want to give it a try at metastock.com/littlefish. You can get a free trial. But that's not the subject of today's class. That was just me sneaking in a little bit of a commercial. Today we have the very first time ever we have Little Fish FX on here with us, and they've been a partner of ours for some time, but this is actually, and they're doing a great job. They really like the Zenith platform particularly, but this is actually their inaugural webinar. So let's go ahead, and James is going to be talking a lot about MACD today. I'm very interested to see what he has to say, and let's welcome him in. James, I'm going to go ahead and turn on your microphone now. Get ready. All right, James, can you hear me?
There we go. Is that coming through?
Yes. It even looks better than my spreadsheet, I would say.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Jeff, and thank you to everyone for tuning in this evening or this morning or this afternoon, whichever part of the world you're joining us from. I'm really excited to be giving this presentation this evening. As Jeff said, this is our first presentation with MetaStock, so this is really exciting, and I hope that you guys are going to get a lot out of this event. So just before we get going, I just want to share this code with you. This is a discount code for those of you who are joining us tonight. As a thank you. It's a discount off our Forex Master course and any of the indicator packages that we have available on the website. So I'll just leave that up for a moment for you guys to note that down. Okay, let's move on to the subject of the evening. Just get rid of this. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen there showing the MetaStock chart, correct? Okay, so what I'd like to discuss with you tonight is a really, yep.
I'm not seeing MetaStock right now. I'm still seeing the Little Fish FX trend trading. I'm still seeing the initial side.
Oh, right, okay, one second. Let me just, okay, is that coming through now?
No, there you go. It's perfect now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, great.
I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so the method that I would like to show you tonight is a really simple, straightforward method that I use for identifying market direction using the MACD indicator, and then using technical analysis to confirm the market direction and to pick high probability entry points. And finally, I'll discuss how I use our proprietary order flow system to confirm my entries, or indeed to help me filter out trades that don't look so good. So first off, I'm pretty confident that the majority of you will be well aware of the MACD indicator. It's a very popular tool, and for good reason. It's really great at highlighting trending market. The classic MACD indicator here in the top of my screen. And the only thing to point out here is that I have the signal line set to a 40 pip, two indicators built into the back end of the system. Order book regression, which tracks the flow and direction of orders in the market. Psychology indicator, which measures opens and closes over a period to spot continual trends. And so when these two indicators are in sync, we get these lovely little directional arrows here, giving us an idea as to the trend present in the market. And we'll touch more on that as we go along. Okay, so The method itself, again, it's very simple, very straightforward. And first off, I'll talk about how I use the MACD. Now, there are obviously many ways to use the MACD indicator, and in this method, I keep it very straightforward and very simple. And basically, I'm looking for the histogram to be above the zero line, and if it is, that indicates to me that I should be looking for bullish price action. And if it's below the if the histogram is below the zero line, then I'm looking for bearish price action. So this is kind of my little cheat sheet for gauging market direction. Okay, when I'm looking through several pairs and I want a nice, efficient way to quickly gauge direction, this is something that I tend to use a lot. And this is something that I've come to after working with a lot of traders and seeing a lot of traders struggle in gauging market direction, usually through trying to be too specific in how they gauge direction, getting too caught up in drawing really specific trend lines and looking at a number of different indicators, giving different measures, which ultimately just confuse them and stop them from being able to effectively gauge the direction. So all I'm looking for is a histogram above the zero line, and I'm looking for price to go up, and I'm looking for a histogram below the zero line to signal that price is going down. What I'm then doing is turning to technicals to track price and see if it is confirming the signal that MACD is giving me. So let's look at the chart that we have now, and I'll talk you through this. I figure that the best way to do this evening is just to run through one pair on a play-by-play basis and really explore the methods that I use to read the market using these tools. And this is the method that I apply to all pairs, so this is transferable to any pair that you trade. Okay, so we've got the sterling dollar daily chart here, and this is beginning in 2013. We can see that we sold off into the beginning of 2013, and we then started to chop around in this range. And we can see that MACD at the time was quite out of kilter with price action, which is immediately indicative of being range bound. Okay, so we had MACD to the downside here whilst price was grinding higher. We then saw price selling off from the high point made whilst the histogram was slightly positive, and we then saw price grinding higher whilst the histogram was negative. So this immediately lets me know that we are stuck in a range. Okay, price isn't tracking the MACD, so we aren't trending here. However, when I see this, I immediately know that I have a situation I can keep an eye on. Again, I'm monitoring a number of pairs all the time, so when some pairs are range bound, other pairs will be trending. So I'm monitoring this range bound situation, and what I want to look for are clues that a trend is manifesting itself and that the range is likely to break at some point soon, and we're going to see entry signals. Okay, so what I'm looking for in terms of price action to signal that the trend is starting is really just the basic stuff that I'm sure you're all pretty much aware of by now in terms of the formation that we would look to see to indicate that a trend is moving. So I want to see, for a bullish trend, higher highs, lower highs, higher highs, lower lows, higher lows, sorry, higher highs and lower highs. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this type of price action. We can see here at the moment that price is very impulsive. There isn't very much corrective action. We aren't seeing many pullbacks in the market. And so it isn't until this point in July that we actually start to see some of the classic trend formation price action that I would look for. You can see that price moved up from July, made a high, retraced, made a higher low, sorry. We then traded higher once more, made a higher high, and at this point MACD is still bearish here, so I'm still viewing this with a view to downside price action manifesting, but I'm aware that price action is actually indicative of a bullish trend forming. And we can see here that as price breaks higher once more and forms yet another high, that the MACD actually crosses to the upside. Okay, so at this point I now have MACD positive, it's above the zero line, so I'm looking for bullish price action. And I can note on my chart that I have in fact seen bullish price action, typical of a bullish trend, with higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, lower highs, higher highs. Okay, and so what I'm looking for now is to really pick my entry points to the market. And the method that I use for this is simply to highlight structural points in the market which are likely to yield support when retested. Okay, so my whole basis for entry here is that I don't want to enter as price breaks out of the high. Okay, this works for a lot of people. A lot of people trade breakouts. However, I don't. I look to reduce my risk when trying to enter with trend. And so I'm always waiting for a pullback in the market. And this is something which I think is a really useful skill for a lot of new traders to really get a handle on. And it's not to panic and chase the market as they feel a trend is forming. Okay, you see a lot of people jumping in randomly as they see price breaking higher, anticipating that a trend is beginning, and they fear they'll miss the move, so they simply jump into the market, and they aren't paying any attention to the rhythm of the market mechanics, and they're not thinking about their entry point, and least of all about stop placement. So with our entry points, we really want to take advantage of the natural ebb and flow of the market and look to enter on these pullbacks as they occur. Okay, and these pullbacks always do occur. Okay, the market never just takes off in a straight line. These pullbacks always happen for a number of reasons. We get profit taking in the trend, we get short-term supply-demand imbalances, reaction to news events. But the bottom line is that these pullbacks always come, and they always present a much lower risk, higher reward entry point in the trend than simply trying to jump in as the trend expands. So essentially what I'm looking to do is, in this situation here, I've established that MACD is to the upside, and so with price moving in a bullish trend formation, I'm looking for a pullback into a good support level to pick an entry point. In this instance, we can see that my first entry point would be from this pullback here. Okay, we traded higher from July. We made this significant high as we came past this swing point. We traded back down, made a higher low, and then we broke higher. So I can now mark on my chart a horizontal line that now becomes support. So we can see that we broke higher here, we came back down, we retested that breakout zone, okay, confirming the breakout level. We then traded higher once more. Again, I don't want to take this signal here because it's coming on an expansion. I want to wait for a pullback, okay? I want the market to have extended itself and then pulled back and consolidated a little. And then I want to enter as the market takes off again in my anticipated direction. So we can see that having broken through this high, we did in fact retrace, come back down, and we came all the way back down into this support line created from this previous high and this previous low. Okay, and for those of you that read price action, we can also see here that we've got a really nice bullish pin bar, which is also indicative of a reversal in the market. Okay, so two of my criteria for entry have been met now. I have the MACD histogram to the upside, indicating to me that I should be looking for bullish price action. I have bullish price action in terms of market structure here. We've broken this previous high, come back down and retested. And now to confirm my entry, I use the order flow system. Okay, so again, as I said earlier, when the order book regression and psychology indicators built into the back end of this system are in sync, we get these signals to enter. And so we can see here that the first bullish signal we get in line with MACD and price action comes at this point here at around the 156 level. And indeed, we enter the market in time for the next phase of expansion. Okay, so we can see that we waited, we didn't jump in early on these initial expansions, and this is where a lot of people get trapped. Okay, they jump in as the market pushes through these levels, and they get caught buying into these exhaustion periods where profit taking is occurring and they get trapped not knowing where to place their stop. Okay, if we're jumping in here as price breaks higher, our stop is going to have to be much further down here. It's much harder to play that level in the market. It's far safer to wait for a pullback, okay? Wait for price to show that it's exhausted itself. We've come all the way back down, retested this support zone, and then started to move higher once again. And then we get a bullish entry signal. And from this point, we can enter here with a stop just below the support line, greatly reducing our risk and anticipating that we see an expansion to the upside, which we can see came here. Is this clear so far to everyone? Are there any questions I can answer at this point? If so, please just ask in the chat function at the side. Okay, I'll continue. So we've broken higher here, and we can see that price continues higher with MACD to the upside. Order flow is still bullish here, showing that volume and activity in the market is geared towards the upside. And as we track price action, we're now waiting for the next entry point to gauge for a signal. So we can see that having broken this high, we now want to mark this area on our chart where we'll be looking for price to pull back into on a retest to set longs, okay? Now we can see that what actually happens is price pulls back from this high, forms a low, and we can see that this is now becoming clear support in the market. We made an initial low here before trading higher. We then sold off, traded right back into that low, consolidated with these inside bars before returning higher. And we can actually see that we got an order flow signal here, okay? We got a bullish signal here which caught a nice move, but this isn't one that I would look to take in line with this system, okay? I'll be waiting for a further test of this support zone to confirm it. Otherwise, I'd be anticipating a move lower down into this level, and this would be my preferred zone for entry, okay? Again, I'm always waiting for a deeper pullback and looking to maximize my profit potential whilst reducing my risk. I'm not looking to take too much of a chance here in gauging my entry point, as I know that as the trend manifests itself, there will be plenty of opportunities for entry. So we can see that price does in fact come back down into this level. And again, if we insert a horizontal line to make that clear, we can see that price comes back down and retests this support zone. MACD is still to the upside here, and so as we get a further order flow signal, I'm able to take this again and anticipate upside movement. So when these signals occur on a retest of these support zones, so long as MACD is still to the upside, I am still happy to play to the long side, okay? So I will continue to take these bullish signals at pullbacks whilst MACD is positive, indicating that I should still be looking for trending action to the upside. So we can see that the signal comes in at around the 161 level, and we can go with a stop below this support zone, and we can see that price takes off again, heads back into this clear resistance zone now. So we can go ahead and mark this on a chart. And this is the process that I essentially follow day in, day out with the various pairs that I chart. I'm essentially tracking the market day after day, marking the significant highs and lows, looking for the areas of support and resistance. And none of this is new stuff and none of this is advanced stuff, okay? But the real skill is in how you put it all together and how you read the market and effectively gauge where to enter and how to enter. So whilst MACD is still to the upside, I continue to look for buying opportunities, and I'm not interested in looking to sell, okay? I'm not interested in playing reversals. This is a trend following system. So we can see here, for those of you who do trade reversals, that you get plenty of reversal opportunities, okay? This double top zone is met with an order flow sell signal, which gives the opportunity to trade the downswing. And as I say, I'm clearly focused on trading with the trend, and so I'm only looking to buy whilst MACD is above. Once MACD has crossed below, then I can look for selling opportunities. So let's continue on tracking cable here. We can see that we break through this high, we trade up into this December period here. We start to see some bearish pin bars, and indeed we trade back down and retest the broken resistance level, which now becomes support. So if I just zoom in here, we can see another example of why it's crucial to use technical analysis in line with the order flow system to really maximize your entry points, okay? As I said, I never want to enter in the expansion zone, okay, because whilst the market is overextended, it's never quite clear how much further it has to run, and the risk is always greater that we are going to pull back sooner rather than later. And so when I see signals towards the forefront of price action, I don't want to be involved in these. I'm only looking for ones that come on the back of a retracement. So having retraced down into this support zone now, we can see that MACD is still to the upside, so I'm still looking for bullish signals to enter. Price continues higher, okay, and we can see that we get an initial order flow signal here. So the real value of using the order flow system in this method is that it really works to confirm these pullbacks as being opportunities to trade with the trend and highlighting them as pullbacks within a trend and not a change of trend, okay? One of the things that a lot of traders suffer from, and this is something that I'm sure you're familiar with, is when trying to trade a pullback within a trend, it's never quite clear how far the pullback can extend, or indeed if it is a pullback or if we're seeing a change of trend. And so it's one thing to use technical analysis to highlight the areas where we would expect to see a reversal, and this is a skill that you really do have to get good at. But the real beauty is being able to confirm the level as being in play through using the order flow system. Okay, as the order flow system is tracking volume and activity in the market, it's a fantastic filter for pullbacks, for false pullbacks rather. Okay, so it really highlights whether a pullback we're seeing is going to manifest price action as a resumption of the trend, or if the pullback we're seeing is likely to continue and indeed yield a trend reversal. So we can see here that having traded higher from this support line, price ground around in this range, okay, we got a number of signals which, although we did still see upside from, we haven't yet seen the expansion phase which we would like to see to confirm that the trend is still active. We can see that price sold off and moved back down into a firm retest of this support line, okay, so retesting these broken highs and this confirmed low. We then got a cluster of pin bars, which again for the price action traders there will know is a fantastic telltale sign of a reversal coming in the market. And we can see that as price began to trade higher from this point, we got our order flow trader bullish signal confirming our entry to the market. And so we're able at this point to go ahead and enter long once more, trading in line with the overall trend. Okay? So the real thing to think about here is how you can use these order flow signals best to your advantage, okay? One of the ways that I look to use them is to take reduced position sizes at each signal and look to build a core position which grows as the trend progresses. And I think one of the other ways that you can best use these is to simply trade each signal as it comes and trade a risk-reward target based on your stop. So instead, if you aren't a long-term trader, if your time horizons aren't long and you aren't comfortable sitting through long holding periods, okay, then you're best off taking each signal as it comes and simply looking to bank a risk-reward target on your initial risk. So if you're taking this trade, for example, okay, you would simply target the next key structural point. So if you're in at this low, you're simply targeting a retest of the high, okay? Or you can look to play for X amount of your risk, 3 times risk, 4 times risk, etc. So the key thing is to really get familiar with using the system and find a way that suits your trading style best and look to build it into your trading style. So we'll carry on tracking cable now. Can everyone hear me clearly? I've just got an error message saying that the sound might be bad. Can everyone hear clearly? Apologies guys, I'm just seeing these questions now. The questions box is quite small and I'm having difficulty reading them. Just give me 1 second, I'll just answer some of these questions before we go on. Okay, Robert McMahon asking, where did you get your support zone from? The support zones, I'm always looking to draw the support zones from previous broken highs or confirmed lows. So in this example, we can see that these 2 highs, when broken, gave us the support zone. Okay, down here in this example, whilst I was initially looking for price to come back down and retest these broken highs for that support zone, I'm happy to draw a support zone at these lows. Okay, so once these 2 lows are in place, then I can draw this as an interim support zone. So that is where those support zones come from. And it really is just a case of tracking the significant highs and lows in the market. I'll just answer another one. What produces the arrows? John. So the arrows that you're seeing on the screen, they're produced by the order flow system, the Little Fish order flow system, which is a proprietary tool that we've developed, and it's available on MetaStock from our website. And it combines order flow techniques with trend following techniques to give these directional signals that you can see. Okay, so we'll continue there, and I've got the question screen open now, so just ask if there's anything else. Okay, so we traded higher from the February high, and MACD is still to the upside here, and so we're still looking for buy signals. And what we can see actually happens is we trade through this 2014 high now. Sorry, John, what's the system telling me for the next few days? I'll just continue on with the presentation, and then we'll get to the most recent piece of price action towards the end, and then I'll go through my thoughts for the next manifestation of price charts, the levels that I'm looking for price to pull back into, to act as entry points. And we can see that price breaks higher here, trades back down into this broken high. We start to see some candlestick tails. We get a pin bar candlestick here, and indeed we get an order flow buy signal here. If I scroll back, upside here, so I'm still looking for bullish signals, but it is getting shallower, so I'm aware that the strength is waning somewhat here, and we can tell that by the magnitude to which we surpass previous highs. Okay, so earlier on, as price was passing through these previous highs, we were getting really nice strong runs, Alexi saying the sound is terrible. Is anyone else having problems with the sound? A few yeses, a few nos. Okay, guys, for those of you who can't hear me that well, I'm going to have to apologize. I'm not sure what's causing that, but I'm not sure how to remedy that either, so I'm going to have to continue for now. And hopefully the sound will stay. So yeah, apologies for that. Hopefully now it won't be a problem. Okay, so as price passes these initial highs, we can see that the magnitude is far greater. We're getting much stronger impulsive legs to the upside. Okay, these are much stronger moves. However, as the trend has continued, we can see that it's starting to weaken. And as we get into spring 2014, we can see that we barely surpassed 2014, the January high rather, and price is stalling here, and it's starting to look in quite a consolidated fashion. And the signals, although still giving some upside here, are quite shallow. Okay, so we're still seeing about 100 pips or so worth of upside from these signals, but we aren't getting the manifestation of trend that we would like to see. And indeed, we can see that price drops back down here and trades back down into the middle of this range. Okay, so when price begins to pull away from the trend direction like that, it isn't a case of being wrong or taking bad signals, okay? Because all we want to do is wait for price to pull into a level which we feel is a high probability entry point, and then look for that to be confirmed by the order flow system. So in this case, when price breaks down from this level and trades lower, I'm looking for price to continue to trade down back into this zone and then look to buy if we get an order flow buy signal. Or I'm looking for price to continue to trade higher and then to retest this area with a buy signal. Okay, MACD is still to the upside here, and we can see from a technical perspective that the trend is still very much to the upside too. Okay, even just using simple trend lines, we can spot that the price action is still moving nicely higher. And so it really is just a case of being selective with entry points and waiting for the best possible opportunity, not looking to be too eager and simply jump in. So we can see that price continues to trade higher. We break these February and March high area. So again, I can mark up these resistance points on my chart. And I now have more key levels to watch for. Price breaks through here, however we don't see a pullback. We see order flow signals as we break the high. But again, I'm not looking to trade breakouts, I'm only looking to trade a pullback. So I continue to track price. Indeed, we break higher here and start to make fresh highs in more of an impulsive fashion, and MACD starts to thicken out a bit. So I'm encouraged again that the bullish trend is continuing at this point, and I can keep this horizontal level on my chart. Okay, these key highs which were broken, and we can see that price comes back down and retests this area. We get some initial signals here which we can see again give shallow upside, but we don't see the full resumption of the trend until we dip lower once again into this area. And this brings me to a key point in the system, which is why I have this 40 signal line on my chart. Okay, and the reason for this is that essentially what I've come to see is that some of the best entries in trends when using the MACD come when, for example, in this bullish trend, the MACD histogram is positive, okay, and the 40 signal line comes all the way back down to the 0 point and dips below it, and then we see an order flow trader signal. Okay, these are some of my best entries for trends, and if you go ahead and get a copy of the system and spend time with it, looking through various time frames and various pairs rather, you'll see that this holds true, and this is a really great part of this system. Okay, so whilst the signals that we get at the support levels which I've highlighted are fantastic and valid and usable, the best signals, so the premium signals, come from these points when the 40 dips down below the midpoint, and then we see an order flow trader buy signal, okay, in line with the MACD histogram. So if I highlight the areas where that has occurred, you can see how much more powerful these are than the typical signals we get. So we saw the 40 dip below here, and we saw price coming up from this support line. We then saw the order flow trader buy signal, and then we saw this big expansion to the upside, which ran on for a couple of hundred pips. Okay, the 40 then took off again, and we then wait for it to come back down below. We can see that it came back down below here, and this is a really great trade because we came all the way back down to this really key pivotal level. Okay, these broken highs, these held lows, so this is a really important level for the market. So we came all the way back down here, the 40 dipped below, MACD is still to the upside, and then we see the order flow trader buy signal, and again we can see that that yields another couple of hundred pips run to the upside. Okay, so what we typically tend to find is that the best moves in the trend come from the periods on the back of this consolidation when the 40 has been unwound and started to come back towards the zero line, in line with price being range bound. Okay, so as price consolidates, the 40 comes back down, it dips below, then moves back up, and we get an order flow trader buy signal, a confluence signal, and then we take off again. And so these are really the key areas to look out for. And there, again, you can split this system into two methods. So you can either look to track the market using technicals and the MACD, looking to take these order flow trader signals as we retest key support lines, or you can simply wait for these key areas. Again, the trade frequency is going to be far less if you do that, but the signals tend to be much stronger and much clearer. Has anyone got any questions I can answer at this point? I'll just check. Does the system work with stocks, Daniel Wang? Yes, it does actually, and we recently, our CEO, Sam Barry, recently did a piece on the website, so head to the website, www.littlefishfx.com, and he recently wrote a great article showing the order flow system working on stocks. So yes, to answer that question, it does, Daniel. I'll just check if we have any others. Mark, yeah, when I mentioned the 40 line, that is the 40 period. So with the MACD, that's the 40 signal line. And so basically, what I'm looking for is, for example, in this bullish trend, I'm looking for MACD, the histogram, to be positive, indicating bullish price action. I'm then looking for the 40 signal line to come all the way back down and dip below. And then as it starts to move back higher, I'm looking for a confluent order flow trader signal to get in and trade a resumption of the trend. Okay, and you can see here that at each point that this has occurred, it's yielded a powerful result. Okay, so we wait for price to expand, we then get this consolidation and pullback, we dip below, we then get the order flow trader signal, and we take off to the upside once more. Okay, and you can see it again here clearly. We break out, make new highs. Okay, we pass these former highs, we start to trend back, we start to correct back down rather, and we see the 40 dip below. We then see these order flow trader buy signals, which yield the next move to the upside. Okay, so following on with cable, let's continue to track it. And indeed, at this stage, we can see that the trend is quite mature. It's lasted now for over a year. And as we moved into the summer of last year, where we topped out, we then saw that sharp decline from those summer highs. Okay, we saw a succession of bearish bars. Now, at this point, it's key to point out that the MACD histogram is still to the upside. Okay, so as price is selling off from this high, you have to bear in mind that at this point the chart would look like this. Okay, so as price is selling off, I am anticipating that we retest this zone here. So I'm still anticipating that we retest this support zone from this broken high, or indeed we come down a bit lower and retest this support zone. But with the MACD histogram still positive, I'm still looking to buy. Okay, I'm still looking for this to continue higher, this bullish trend. And the brilliant thing is that if I were trading this naked, and by that I mean without using the order flow system, I would probably take a couple of hits on being wrong, okay? Because we can see that as price comes down and retests these zones, although we stall out a bit, we do in fact break down through quite quickly. However, you'll notice that in this entire pullback, okay, in this entire pullback, we don't see a single order flow trader buy signal, okay? So in these pullbacks here, whilst the MACD is still to the upside, we were seeing order flow trader buy signals, allowing us to trade, signaling that the trend was likely to continue higher and allowing us entry. However, in this pullback here, we don't see any buy signals, and so we simply don't enter. So it's not a case of being wrong. We simply don't enter, and in fact, what we do then see happen is the MACD histogram, for the first time in over a year now, cross to the downside at this point. So if we take our trend line, for example, let me just highlight that. If we take our trend line and draw it out like that, we can see from a technical perspective quite clearly that the bullish trend has been broken here at this point, and we've sold off by a couple of hundred pips at this point over a month. So this has been quite a sharp decline from those summer highs. However, we didn't see any buy signals, and when MACD crossed to the downside, I now know that this is no longer a pullback. Okay, so I'm no longer looking for buy signals. So I'm no longer looking for price to continue higher from this area. Now what I'm looking for is price to continue lower, to break lower, to pull back, and then I'm looking for order flow trader sell signals to take advantage of what is now likely to be a bearish trend. Okay, so that is simply the way that I use the MACD in this method. Again, like I say, there are many ways of using the MACD. There are much more complicated ways, and all ways can be effective, okay, and I find that this way is very effective for quickly assessing price action and finding trends. I want to see the histogram positive to look for bullish price action to confirm a bullish trend, and I want to see the histogram negative to look for bearish price action, and then I'm looking for the 40 to pull back, okay, and then I'm looking for it to continue in line with the anticipated trend direction with order flow trader signals to trade the trend. So if we go forward now, I'll get rid of some of these horizontal lines just quickly. Just clear up the chart a bit. Okay, so we've broken the trend line now, we've sold off, we can see the order flow trader is bearish here, okay, it's giving us a number of sell signals, but again, this is the flip side now to how we were trading the bullish trend. As price is surging lower, I'm not looking to trade these sell signals, okay, although we can see here clearly that they did work. This isn't a question of looking at what happened at one instance of a price action period in a chart. This is trying to find a method which can be applied time and time again and be successful, and this works, okay. So instead of looking for the breakout and to trade the initial signal, I'm looking for price to pull back and then continue in line with the trend with a confluent signal. So we can see here that the sell-off was in fact very severe. We came down from those summer highs of mid 172s, and it was all the way down into 161, so over 1,000 pips worth of sell-off here before we got a pullback, okay? Before we got a pullback which would meet my criteria. Now again, that's over a 2-month period, so that's quite a long time horizon. But like I said at the start, I applied this process to all the pairs I'm looking at, okay? So whilst the trade frequency might appear quite limited on this, you have to bear in mind that this is multiplied over 10 or 15 pairs. So the trade frequency is perfectly high, perfectly reasonable. So the key point is just to always be waiting and always be selective with entry to really maximize the opportunity. So we can see that having sold off, made this low, and seen our first counter signal, our first order flow trader buy signal, which again, another way to use these signals with this trending method is that for those of you who aren't great at spotting pullbacks, these can really help to identify where the pullbacks occur. So where we're seeing markets selling off and we're getting a succession of red arrows, the point at which we see a counter signal develop usually indicates that there is a pullback there. So we see a swing in the market. We then sell off, we trade all the way back up, retest that broken point, okay? So we retest that broken low. We then continue lower, and at this point I get my first sell signal which meets my criteria for selling, okay? So this meets my bearish criteria now. We've sold off, MACD, the histogram is to the downside. We have made fresh lows, we've retraced back up into this level here. We've then sold off and we've seen an order flow trader sell signal, at which point I'm happy to go ahead and set short entries. Again, my stop goes behind, so when I was trading to the upside, my stops were always below the recent swing low. When I'm trading to the downside, my stop is always placed above the recent structural high. And again, this isn't anything new, this isn't anything fancy, but this is about building a consistent method that you can use to trade profitably and learning to combine technical analysis with the MACD filter, okay, and then more importantly, learning how to apply the order flow system to find low risk, high probability entry points to the market. So we can see that price sells off here. We break down through this low, so we can go ahead and mark that area on our chart. Okay, and now we're looking for pullbacks, again followed by sell signals. So we can see here that we get a very shallow pullback into this area. We got a very shallow break of this low. We didn't go down as low as we would anticipate and make a clean retest. However, we do see sell signals manifest here as we break lower. Again, the key thing to point out is that we're looking for signals which come on the pullback and not at the break of lows. Okay, so if I zoom in here, you can see clearly as we break lower here and get a sell signal, this isn't a signal I'm looking to take because I'm looking to take one which comes on a pullback. So as we pull back and see a sell signal here, this is one that I would take. Okay, so we're still above the lowest low in the market at this point. Okay, so at the time, let's bear in mind that the chart looks like this. We've come down, we've made a low, we've pulled back, we've broken through, made a new low, got our order flow trader sell signal. We've then pulled back once more, and then we get a sell signal, which I would look to trade. So I'd look to trade a break lower here with my stop behind. And we can see that this signal doesn't actually work out. It pulls back against us. And okay, this does happen because, as with all signals, this isn't a 100% success rate, but the key thing is about how you apply the analysis to find high probability entry points where you can really reduce your risk, okay? If I had taken this signal here, for example, I would have to reasonably have my stop behind this level, okay? And so that's a much larger risk to take. Whereas when I play this pullback signal here, my stop can go just above here and my risk is greatly reduced. If I'm right and the trend continues from this point, then I've got in a nice low risk entry point. If I'm wrong, then I'm only wrong by a small amount. I like to call them cheap wrongs, okay? So I'm trying to find areas in the market where I can be wrong and it's not going to cost me a great deal, and I can look to take a number of small losses engaging these entry points, knowing that when I am right, I'm going to catch a big run and it's going to far outweigh any of the small losses that I incurred in trying to gauge the entry points. So we can see that price continued to sell off and we continue to make these new lows, trading back up, pulling back, getting these order flow trader sell signals. And the key thing is, again, like with the bullish trend, whilst the MACD histogram is still to the downside, I'm only looking to take sell signals, so I'm not interested in buy signals. And again, I'll come back to how I use the 40 here because this is another fantastic example of it. So in the uptrend, if I zoom out, in the uptrend I was looking for the 40 to pull back to the midline whilst the histogram was to the upside to take order flow trader buy signals, okay? And in the downtrend, I'm simply looking at the opposite of this, okay? I'm waiting for the 40 to cross back above the midpoint whilst the histogram is still down, and I find that these give me the strongest entries to the market. And we can see here that we got a really great pullback in the market, this really nice corrective leg of swings right back up into these broken lows, and we then got these order flow trader sell signals which caught a really nice expansion to the downside. So these pullbacks really do tend to work best. We can see here again that the 40 pulled back to the midline and we got a pullback, we got our signal, and this one didn't work. We can see that price took off, reversed, and now the histogram has crossed to the upside. So let me just check the question. Who was it that asked anything that I'm looking at over the next couple of days? Okay, so I don't know if it's going to be the next couple of days or not. But as I said, in terms of using this system, what I can anticipate now is that the downtrend has finished, or at least we're seeing a large correction to it. And I'm looking now for opportunities to trade to the upside, okay? So the histogram is positive here, and indeed the 40 line has crossed lower. And so I'm looking for an order flow trader buy signal. Okay, we've got a really nice pullback already in the market, so this is actually a really great setup that I'm monitoring now. Okay, we've got the nice trend formation here. We'd sold off, made the low, made a high, new low. We then reversed, made a higher high, a higher low, traded, made a higher high, a higher low, and so we've got that classic trend formation beginning here. Now we've got a nice deep pullback into this support zone. MACD is positive, and so I'm waiting for an order flow trader buy signal to set longs, anticipating that we break this high and continue to move higher. And if we do break this high, then it's simply a case of continuing to apply this same process over and over. Once we break this high, I'll be marking the high on my chart, looking for price to come back down and retest with a view to setting longs. Okay, so, and has anybody got any questions at this point? That's the end of what I would like to present to you, and I hope that I was very clear in my presentation there and that you all understood the methods and that I went through it clearly enough. So please ask any questions now if you had any. The red line is the 40 period MA of the histogram. Yeah, that's correct. That's right. No other questions? Okay guys, well thanks a lot for tuning in tonight, and I hope that you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you again for the next one, hopefully